Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on this Friday in your nation's capital. We made it. We're going to finish up this week strong and then launch you right into the weekend. Starting at 6:35, Ron Halber is CEO of the Jewish Community Relations Council. We have another dead dirtbag terrorist. This one, the mastermind for the October 7th terrorist attack. It took a little over a year, but he has gone to meet, well, I was going to say he's gone to meet his maker, but I think actually he's headed in the opposite direction. Coming up at 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky. Election Law Reform Initiative over at Heritage Foundation. As we reach the final couple of weeks, we should be focused on the election process and voting process in some of these most important states, so we'll dive deep with him. 7:35, Bram Weinstein to preview this weekend's Commanders game. 8:05 is Eli Lake, once again reflecting on another dead terrorist, and it's a good thing. And then at 8:35, Hollywood hotshot actor Kevin Sorbo, who appears in the Reagan movie. That Reagan movie now is available for streaming on a couple of platforms that you should check out. I've seen it. It's fantastic. I'm Larry O'Connor, and that person reacting and emoting in such an evocative way to our lineup this morning is my partner in crime this Friday morning, Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Happy Friday, Larry.
Thank you, young lady. It's so good to hear that from you. Everyone's waiting for it. Can I ask you something very important, by the way? I have not yet seen a photograph of you and your amazing children and your wonderful husband at a hayride or pumpkin patch or any other kind of fall event. I look forward to this every autumn. It's one of the most beautiful holiday moments. What's going on there in the Onwuka household?
Don't worry. We went to the farm last Sunday after church. We did take pictures. We even yesterday we did some trunk or treating at the kids' elementary school. So I will be updating my social media feeds with lots of family pictures today. By the end of the day. Don't worry. I got you.
We always like to check in on your family life.
We
by
did
the way,
not wear matching shirts though. Just FYI.
No matching shirts.
No, the Apple Cake would not do it this year.
You didn't get the authentic Tim Walz flannel shirts that you could all wear together.
We did wear flannel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of people who are wondering, about last night's concert at the Birchmere Yachtley Crew. We talked about it quite a bit with Sean Spicer yesterday. And we had so many listeners there at the Birchmere that came up to me and Sean and Mercedes and Vince Colonnese and Matthew Foldy and Jen Pellegrino of Newsmax. A lot of us were there.
Yeah.
And they all said, well, I'll be listening at 5 a.m. I want to hear you tomorrow. I was like, dude, I don't think I'm going to make it at 5 a.m., so I'm glad. But I'm here. We had a great time. It was absolutely sold out. It was jam-packed, huge numbers. And Matt Foldy caught me singing to Toto's Africa.
Ooh.
If you'd like to, Michael, do we have that clip? He posted this on X. All right, let's listen. Oh, my God.
There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. What did you do? I blessed the rains down in Africa.
So, all right, that's a little pitchy, dog. I need you to know that was mostly Foldy's voice singing.
Yes, it was. I'm watching it right now here.
He said, I am over his shoulder, and if you really listen hard, you can hear me singing right on key, right on pitch. I was nailing those notes.
And by the way, you're looking Michael Spielberg-ish with your black T-shirt, blazer, and hat. Larry, you were channeling a Hollywood producer last night. Is that the case?
A look. It was a look.
It was a look.
We were having a good time, and the T-shirt actually says Yachtley Crew 2024. It's like a campaign shirt. It says Yachtley Crew 2024, and then it says red, white, and smooth.
Ooh, that's nice. Now, wait, where is your captain's hat, though? I feel like...
Well, they had choices. Most people had the captain's hat, like they're the skipper from the minnow. I chose the pirate's version. They have that's a pirate hat.
That's a pirate hat, okay.
And it's the Yachtley Crew pirate hat. I just found it to be. Anyway.
All right, we'll share this on social.
It was a great time. And thank you to everybody at the Birchmere and to the Yachtley Crew. for all of those covers. And our very own Michael Shelton, our board operator, was there as well. He was having a party too. It was a great night. Next year we'll expand our group. Maybe we'll make a big thing of it. And
maybe you'll drag me out. Well, I was trunk or treating, but maybe it'll work out.
Maybe we'll do a whole event with the with listeners as well. We could just make it a new free speech forum with music, I think.
That would be interesting.
In fact, the people at the Birchmere, we do the Free Speech Forum at the Birchmere with Mark Levin and Chris Plant and you and Julie, and we sell the place out with our listeners. People at the Birchmere, who all know us, of course, kept coming up, says, if Trump wins, we got to do a whole, inaugural ball here. We got to do a big party here if Trump wins.
Actually, that's a really great idea.
It's a fantastic
That is actually
idea.
A really great idea. Wear your best red, white, and blue.
Exactly. And just do a WMAL throwdown inaugural ball right there with blue jeans and T-shirts and soft rock.
And MAGA hats, yes.
By the way, as we're talking about you going out and getting your pictures these last 2 weeks of, October. I was going to say last 2 weeks of fall, but we got a couple of months of fall. But this weekend is going to be the peak fall foliage season in Virginia. The Virginia Department of Forestry has announced that we have hit it, like the Skyline Drive in the Shenandoah Trail. This is it. You are basically at the peak now. It's just creeping in there at the border of West Virginia and Virginia, over where Skyline Drive is. And I feel so bad because I was down in Madison County, Roanoke County, and did the whole drive and everything last weekend. And we could see, in fact, we drove down Friday night, Meredith and I did, and my daughter and future son-in-law. And from when we drove down Friday to when we drove back to D.C. on Sunday, the leaves had already made a shift over the weekend, last weekend. And you could see it that this was, we were hitting it. So if you're a Virginian and you want to go out and enjoy that bountiful autumn look with those incredible colors, this, I think, is the weekend where you're going to start hitting the peak, according to the Department of Forestry. Now, according to the Maryland Department of Forestry, the fall foliage report shows that out in Garrett County and Allegheny County and Washington County, all the way out in the Panhandle there, you're there right now. The rest of Maryland, from Frederick east, you're sort of just changing and you're hitting the midpoint now. You're not going to hit near peak again for another week or two, but you're getting there, especially in the eastern
I could
shore and
attest.
southern Maryland.
I mean, on Sunday I was out in Frederick County, and it was pretty much near peak, if not at starting to peak. So I can definitely attest. The fall foliage, though, is beautiful. It's nice that here in this area, Anne Arundel, Montgomery, Prince George's, all the way out pretty much to the coast, or to what is it? Thinking of the next state over. I can't remember the next
Delaware?
state. Thank you, Delaware. It looks like we still got some time.
Right. You got a little bit more time to enjoy it. And last year, for some reason, I don't know if it was because of the rainy season that we had in the spring and summer. If you remember, the rainy season here came sort of late. It was kind of dry until we hit September and October, and then we got a lot of rain. And I don't know whether that makes a difference. But last year, it seemed like we hit that peak fall foliage season, and then like 3 days later, all the leaves were gone.
Yes.
It's like we got the colors, and then if you blinked your eye, it was
all
just
gone.
bare trees.
Which is hard when you're trying to do that family photo, for the Christmas cards, and you're thinking, okay, I've got Saturday, I've got the photographer lined up, and then Saturday comes and there's not a leaf on a tree to be found.
Well, maybe this is the weekend for everybody to go out there and really enjoy it, get those pictures, and then, hunker down and prepare for winter. But before that, we've got an election that we're preparing for. And in a moment, we've got brand new polls and a brand new snapshot in terms of those battleground states and what the election would look like if it were held tomorrow. We'll give you all the details. Spoiler alert. That's a very red-looking map I'm looking at right now. We'll give you those details in a moment. First, though, it's
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
on the verge now of the election day that is. Of course, we have plenty of states that are early voting, including Virginia right in our backyard. Starting next Thursday, early voting will begin in Maryland and other states that employ early voting. Georgia has begun early voting, and by the way, the numbers coming in there are astounding. It's one of the things we're going to talk to Hans von Spakovsky about later today at 7:05, because we were told that Jim Crow on steroids was going to silence the vote and disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of people. And it turns out the early voting is record-breaking right now in Georgia since they put their electoral reforms in. But let's take a look at a snapshot. This is as of October 17th, yesterday, in the battleground states. And, of course, we're talking about the southern battleground states of Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. Now, of those four, Trump, when he won the presidency, won 3 of those 4. He won Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona. He did not win Nevada, but Nevada is up for grabs this time around. And for most of the electoral maps that we've been looking at for Trump's pathway to victory, we sort of take into account those 3 states coming back for Trump: Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. And if he wins those 3, the same 3 that he won in Pennsylvania, then all he's got to do is just win one of the so-called blue wall states. Those would be Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Okay. Right now, when you look at the 4 southern states, Trump is in the lead in all 4 of them, including Nevada, which has been sort of a holdout right now. Trump holds a 0.5 percentage point lead in the polls. All right. That means that if you hold the election today, even with a 0.5 percentage point lead, Trump wins the state, right? Because it doesn't matter whether you win by 2 points or whether you win by 1/10 of 1 percentage point, as Joe Biden did in the final tally 4 years ago. You win that state. So you've got Trump winning all 4 of those. Then when you look north to the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, if the election were held today, Trump wins all 3 of those as well.
Amazing.
In other words,
amazing.
For the first time in this election, even back when Joe Biden was still the nominee for the Democrats, for the first time, Donald Trump is now leading in every single one of those battleground states, of the 7 battleground states. If the election were held today, every single one of those states goes with Donald Trump, and you're looking at an electoral college tally of 312 for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. He's never looked this good this close to Election Day.
By the way, either of them only needs 270 electoral votes to win. I mean, this is why the Harris campaign announced that earlier this week she would be barnstorming Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, spending multiple days in each one of those states. Here's the challenge for them. They have not gotten they have lost union support. The fact that the Teamsters union and some of the other unions have chosen not to endorse either candidate is an implicit rejection of Harris, right? Because these unions always go to the Democrats. And so they recognize their own union membership are huge Trump supporters, which means that we have now seen, and the big picture, folks, the realignment of the parties started under Obama. He realigned the Democratic Party away from the working class, blue collar, dirt under your fingers party to become the party of the elites. But President Trump picked up on that and started to get all of those workers who felt disaffected, leftover, forgotten, looked down on because they don't have a elite college degree from an Ivy League and aren't on the coast. And so there has been a huge realignment. Now you're seeing the realignment not just among union and working class, but among the racial minorities. That is going to be the biggest story coming out of this 2024 election cycle.
I think you're right, Patrice, because that's been such a topic of conversation in so many of the cable news and political shows is the minority vote, the Latino vote, the African-American vote, and certainly amongst males in those groups. And I don't think Kamala Harris has made any moves to shore that up in any way whatsoever. I think it's also instructive that she's barnstorming in those 3 states. You don't see her spending too much time in North Carolina or Georgia or Arizona anymore.
Yes.
She's got to focus on those. She cannot lose any one of the 3 Midwestern states. And listen, those 3 states, yes, Trump is leading as of now, and if the election were held today, he would win. But in each one of those 3 states, it's still a margin of like 0.5 percentage point or less. Yeah. When you look down at the other, Georgia right now, Trump's up by 1. North Carolina, Trump's up by 1. Arizona, Trump is up by 1.5 points now.
Wow.
In other words, those states are looking increasingly harder for Kamala Harris to shore up and turn around.
Yeah.
And let's be clear here. 2 things. Number one, these polls are not always right, but they're usually wrong in the direction that favors the Democrats. So if Trump is looking that strong now, I'm baking into the cake that there's probably a larger vote out there for Trump that is not being picked up by these polls. And number 2, yes, I know everyone's going to tweet it at me or send us emails. Well, those polls don't account for cheating, and they don't account for all of the shenanigans that of course they don't. But since that's something that we can't account for and we can't quantify, then it's not something we can really talk about in advance.
No, you can't.
Everybody chill out, take good news for what it is, but keep your eye on the prize and stay
vote
focused.
early. That is, I think, going to be the big difference.
Yeah, and we shall see.
Yeah.
But again, right now, if you had your choice between being a Trump supporter and a Kamala Harris supporter, you're a lot happier today if you're a Trump supporter. 523.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Here we go. 536, O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in on this Friday morning. Coming up at 6:35, Ron Halber, CEO of Jewish Community Relations Council, about the offing of another anti-Semitic Jew-hating terrorist.
Sounds like
in
a
the
good
Middle
thing.
East. Yeah. Oh, it's a reason to celebrate. 7:05 brings us Hans von Spakovsky, election law expert. As well, we better start focusing on ballot protocols. 7:35, Bram Weinstein about this weekend's Commanders game. 8:05, Eli Lake on what went into the killing of that Hamas leader. And then at 8:35, Kevin Sorbo, Hollywood hotshot, actor, conservative, red-blooded Reagan American who appears in the Reagan movie, which is now available on streaming. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka.
Happy Friday, Larry.
Happy Friday to you. It appears that we're going to be having a lot of yacht rock as our bumper music this morning.
Yeah,
Michael Shelton.
I hear that. You know, it takes me back to sitting in my dad's back seat. He would pick me up from after school, and he'd be playing this soft rock on the way
You
home.
would have
So I
enjoyed
actually
the
listened to
concert
a lot of
last
this.
night.
Yeah,
You would have
okay.
enjoyed Yachtley Crew at the Birchmere. All right, so we talked yesterday about this funeral at the National Cathedral of Ethel Kennedy, and it was sort of a Democrat love fest. Have you ever noticed that right before an election, there always seems to be a Democrat who dies right beforehand so they can have a big, funeral and Democrat? I wonder if that's planned. I wonder if people's like, all right, make sure I die right before the election. Jimmy Carter is on death watch, let's just say. So they can have the big, reunion of everyone. And there was Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, although Nancy wasn't talking to anyone. And
She's been iced out.
there was this moment when President Biden and former President Barack Obama, of course, Biden being Obama's former vice president, the two of them were caught on camera talking to each other very intensely.
Yes.
And no one knows what they were saying. But it sure looked like it wasn't about, the funeral and Ethel Kennedy's legacy. It was about politics. And by the way, a lot of people have sort of done that thing where they use artificial intelligence and
Make
sort of
their own
fake
videos,
voices
yes.
to sort of come up with what they believe they may have been talking about. Some of them are very funny and also very inappropriate for family radio.
Oh, no.
But we do have one of the, so this is one of those fake sort of, hey, what could they be talking about? And this is what someone came up with.
So is Kamala doing okay?
Nope. She's down, Joe. Trump is killing us at the polls. So, yes, we're going to lose Joe.
Wait. What if I come back to run again?
As candidate?
Yeah.
Well, so no, Joe,
on, man.
you're
Just
not going
give it
back
another
yet.
shot.
Let's let it all play out. Okay, we'll talk later, Joe.
Okay.
Women looking fine up in here.
That would be former President Clinton keeping his eye on what's most important.
On the
his
ball.
Focus. Yes. All right. So that of course, is not what they were talking about. Although I got to say, according to this report from the New York Post, it's actually uncannily close to reality. The New York Post went and hired a lip-reading expert to sort of try to figure out what it was they were talking about. A lip reader. So now this is a gentleman named Jeremy Freeman. He is based out of London. He is a forensic lip reader. He was born deaf. And for the last 16 years, he served as the University College of London's certified expert witness for litigants, for the police, and for journalists. In other words, if you're having a, let's say it's a criminal trial and you've got video of someone, but they bring this guy in as an expert, and he says, based on my expertise, my estimation, this is what they're talking about. I love this so much. Now, just to be clear, this is probably about as scientific as opening the newspaper and reading what Cancer and Aries and Capricorn are supposed to do today based on the stars. I mean, I don't know how 100% accurate this is, but again, this guy's testimony is admissible in a London court, an English court. So all right. So here's what this lip ringer. I'll just go right to the New York Post. President Biden griped to former President Barack Obama that she is not as strong as me, with Obama agreeing that's true. Now they may have been talking about Michelle Obama for all we know, and they were actually talking about arm wrestling or maybe doing push-ups.
Yeah, and that unfortunately plays into some narratives that people have about Michelle Obama, but we won't go there.
Not if Joe Biden's actually stronger than her, then that actually feminizes her a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, but that could be the conversation. Barack Obama may have been up there saying, Michelle's way too strong for me. And Biden says, she's not as strong as me. All right, so that could have been it. Anyway, according to the lip...
That's just ridiculous, but you never know.
Sorry.
You never know.
According to the lip reader, she's not as strong as me, said Biden, according to the translation. I know that's true, said Obama. We have time. And then Biden says, yeah, we'll get it in time. Moments earlier, Obama said, it's important that we have some time together, in a possible reference to campaigning alongside Kamala Harris.
Wow.
So they were definitely talking. We know they were talking about the election, and from this, it appears that the two of them were lamenting about Kamala Harris not being as strong as Joe Biden on the campaign trail, but Barack Obama saying there's still time. There's still time. So there you go. What do you think?
Listen, it's plausible. It is 100% plausible. The way they're intensely looking at each other, I actually thought there was bad blood between them. There is not. They obviously still have affinity for each other. They're really close. Joe Biden is looking into Obama's mouth in a very creepy way. But you can tell it's like Joe is like, Obama's the big guy. I got to make my final appeal. And this is my shot to get back on the ticket.
No way. You think so?
Did he go as far as saying I would be better on the ticket? Yeah. Maybe not, but it's plausible that he said, well, see, you all threw me under the bus, and now you see she's not as strong as I was. So it's
it
absolutely
could have been a
plausible.
Joe Biden, I told you so moment.
Here's why I think it is plausible, though. Obama and Biden White House officials have been asked about this translation. One source close to Obama didn't deny the translation. Underscore that, folks. Did not deny it. Only said only President Obama and Biden know what they discussed. Any assertion otherwise is ridiculous. So there's no flat-out denial. And then the two former Biden White House officials, are just they said they're kind of stunned and are dubious about it. Yeah. But I mean, it's very plausible, Larry. It is plausible.
I noted that as well, that they didn't deny it, and I also noted that neither the Obama nor Biden White House officials were quoted on the record. They remained anonymous in their reaction. Why would they remain anonymous in the reaction? Yeah, we'll see. It's 5:43.
Later this morning on the Chris Plant Show, the so-called ladies of The View canceled their annual Halloween costume episode because, the election. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar. This is a Hamas leader who we're told masterminded the October 7th terror attack against Israel, has bitten the dust. He got his brains blown out. And by the way, I'm not sort of using some strange rhetorical euphemism here. I have seen the photograph of Mr. Sinwar lying in the rubble after the IDF blasted his hideout.
Yes.
And he literally got his brains blown out.
Yes, he did.
Like there's a giant hole in his skull, and his brains, well, much of his brains are no longer where they used to reside. within that skull. This was killed. This was a military operation the IDF carried out on Thursday. According to the Washington Post, the Israeli military had not officially yet said whether the strike was by air or other military personnel. Hamas has not confirmed the death, but the photo published that I'm referring to definitely shows Mr. Sinwar as a former living human being.
Yeah.
He was, by the way, declared Hamas's new political head in August following the assassination of many other Hamas leaders. But this is a very sweet kill for the IDF because he was the person who sort of put together the entire plan that led to the October 7th attack just a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Now, you'll see many Democrats, including Senator Chris Van Hollen and other leaders of the Democrat Party, sort of celebrating this, saying this is great, this is good that he died. He deserved to die, and all these other things. And, they love to grandstand and thump their chest. But let's just be clear. If the Democrats, like Chris Van Hollen, had their way, this would not have happened. Why? Well, because Mr. Sinwar was hiding out in Rafah. And you will remember that every Democrat in this country, or at least most Democrats in this country, including our vice president, warned Israel that they should not go into Rafah. In fact, here is Kamala Harris specifically talking about this in March as Israel began to ramp up on the border of the Gaza territory, about to begin their Rafah incursion.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps.
Well, she studied the maps after all.
Well, and that tells you everything that you need to know.
That's right.
He was the mastermind of this October 7th campaign that killed over 1,200 people. But he's been on the radar for quite some time. I'm seeing a lot of headlines now that his death should speed in or accelerate the end of the campaign and the war. I actually disagree. I think the end of the war is when Hamas is obliterated. When it's in tatters right now, but no doubt he will be replaced by his accomplice or his brother. Brother and accomplice. So until the actual Hamas group is obliterated and until that threat is gone, there should be no end and no call for ceasefire. Imagine if a ceasefire had already been implemented at the demand of the American government. This would not have been the case.
Well, I'm personally not against a ceasefire, but a ceasefire only happens when Hamas releases all of the hostages and stands down. There have been multiple efforts for a ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the leadership of the IDF, representing the Israeli people, have put forth multiple ceasefire options. Ceasefires are a good thing, and I'm fine with it, but Hamas needs to come to the table and actually surrender.
And they
need to release the hostages. They need to actually deliver something.
That's right.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're not asking for a ceasefire. They're asking for Israel to just surrender.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we're done now, and walk away and allow Hamas to reload, rearm, and
plan
strike
more attacks.
Again.
Exactly. So I caution everybody when you see these headlines, it's time for Israel to end its campaign. This should be the end of it. His death, Sinwar's death, should be the end of it. I caution everybody to say, oh wait, no, it's for Israel to decide. And by the way, the vice president is the one who, if Israel had listened to her, they would never have gotten this guy. So, there you go. That's our foreign policy right now.
And by the way, looking at Kamala Harris's social media page and her X page, trying to see what she had to say about the death of this terrorist, she had nothing to say. Nothing at all. Which, honestly, I prefer that to her actually grandstanding and acting like this was something that she supports, considering she was against the incursion into Rafah that led to this justice being meted out on this dirtbag terrorist. It's 5:53.